We use metaphors and analogies to explain things often because when doing that, it offloads some of the burden of explanation onto the listener. Because what the person saying the metaphor or analogy is saying is these two ideas or concepts involved are similar, and it puts it on the listener to connect the dots. When we do this, it allows the listener to think about and come to their own conclusions in a way that allows them to understand and gain a better comprehension of what is being explained. And it also is a shorthand in conversation because instead of having to explain every tiny little thing, you can just say that quick analogy and everything you're trying to say is said in that but compacted. There's the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And we understand intuitively what is trying to be portrayed by that analogy or metaphor. And yet nothing further has to be said for us to see what we know. And from contextual observation, we can conclude what is meant by that statement. Because if not, then I would have to say, hey, it's a good idea to diversify your assets because if some kind of freak accident happens that interrupts this asset, you could lose it all and have nothing. So it's better to have backups or multiple assets to reduce the likelihood that you lose everything. And as you can see, that explanation took me a lot longer than don't put all your eggs in one basket, but you understand what I'm saying either way. And most likely you understood the don't put all eggs in one basket better because it's simpler words and it makes you think and you don't get lost in all the vocabulary and language that I had to use for the other definition. When you try and explain something, like you find that in a lot of like wisdom books and in like the Bible and all these things, like it's very common for the teachers to use parables and metaphors and analogies rather than explaining things just straight up exactly what they mean, right? And the reason I believe that this is because if you tell someone exactly all the information, right, then they don't have to think, right? And so they hear what you're saying, but they don't necessarily understand it, right? They don't internalize it. It doesn't stick in their brain, right? But when you use analogies and stuff, people have lived experiences. They've observed the world. They've experienced the world. And so they have made neurological connections in their brain to certain things. And so what you're basically doing is you're tying this knowledge and you're relating it to other connections and other understandings that the person already has. So when you understand, like if I have all of my eggs in one, like you understand an egg breaks, right? And you understand that, if you drop it, then usually it cracks, right? And so you can understand that if you had all of your eggs in one basket, if you dropped it, you would break all of the eggs, right? And so because you have a comprehension of these things, you can pretty much put together what is implied by that and be like, oh, okay, well, that's what's going on there. And it causes you to think. It causes you to make connections. It causes you to kind of interpret it. And by doing this, it's working your brain. And by working your brain, it is building strength in this comprehension and this understanding. And it is tying it into your current network, basically, of what you understand and your view of the world, right? And so every time that you do this, you are, the more you do this, the more it makes sense. And the more you think, the more it is internalized and the more you understand. And the more you relate it to other things that you understand, the deeper your understanding becomes. And so I think that these analogies are so powerful because, in order for you to understand, you actually have to think, right? Because what's the point of teaching a person that's not thinking, right? Why are they even there, right? And that's the problem with school today is that we're not teaching people to make them think. We're just teaching them, right? And you notice a lot of people don't want to learn, and they don't learn even when they're in school, really. They just memorize, and then it's gone, right? Because there's no connection to, like, it's stored in memory, but it's not tied into the worldview. It's not tied into the reasoning, the comprehension part of our brains. And so I think it's very important to be as observant as you can about everything around you, right? The more you are aware of what's around you, more aware of what's going on, how certain things react and how, certain things behave. You watch like people walking down a street and it's like, okay, well, like, you can start to kind of get an idea of, okay, well, when someone looks like this or acts like this is probably what they're going to do, right? And you get this kind of intuition building where you have just built up a good comprehension and knowledge of the world, and it helps you to basically just know, like, answers because you know the world, right? And it puts you in a predictive position where you don't need all the information. You can infer the rest based off of previous experiences. And I feel like I kind of went on a tangent there, but basically it's important to be thinking. And the reason why these analogies and parables and stories and stuff are used to teach is because it encourages that, right? And it also can help sift out the people that are actually interested compared to those that aren't. Because the people that are not interested in learning or are not aware enough to comprehend, it goes right over their head. And then it's like, okay, well, then I won't waste my time with that person. They're not ready, right? And I have another thing here. I'll add it on because it's super short. I can bring you to water, but if I force you to drink, you will surely drown. And basically what it's saying is that I can teach you, right? But if you don't want to learn, it will not be a pleasant experience, right? And so this is kind of, again, going back to the problem with our schooling system right now is that it's forcing you to learn. You have to be there. You have to get the good grades. And it kills people inside, right? They don't want to be there. It's a miserable experience for a lot of people because they're just like, school is nothing but grades. It's all nothing but learning. It's nothing but work. There's no creativity. There's no curiosity. There's no passion. It's just very bland, and it's very sad. But we're not, like, people aren't really taught to learn anymore. I think it's interesting. And I think it's a big problem, but we're trying to offload our thinking capabilities to AI because we don't want to think anymore. And if you're not thinking, then I don't know what you're doing, right? Like, that's the definition of an NPC, right? So, like, if you're going to use ChatGPT to decide how you live, how do you go about your day and answer all of your questions for you, right? And do all of your writing and all of your reading and just do everything for you, right? Then what are you doing, right? And it's like, then you're just a robot, basically. You're just a robot. You're just a very advanced robot that is being underutilized. An extremely advanced robot being extremely underutilized, and is basically the definition of an NPC at that point. And that's just so sad. I don't know. I think that we should try and encourage the opposite of that rather than enabling it and, what's the word? It's when you kind of take advantage of it. I can't think of the word. It's not there. Yeah. So, I I mean, I feel like I kind of went on a ramble there. Basically, it's important to think, right? It's important to make associations and connections, and it's important to be observant, because by being observant, you also are building these connections, right? Because you look at something happen, you go, oh, well, this happened because of this, right? And then you relate it to something, and then next time something happens, you go, oh, that was kind of like this, and then you relate it, right? And like you build these connections, you build this understanding. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. Peace out.